When did the "I crave attention" kid go too far? He was a jerk. I had a couple of pet goats and he would come over and bully them all the time. He'd poke them through the fence with sticks, throw rocks at them, spook them with loud noises, but he'd never go into the pen. He was too scared of them. He should have known better. He was 16. One day we're all inside and we hear this blood-curdling scream. In comes the kid, screaming at the top of his lungs. The goat. The goat is after me. Help. We turn to see the big billy goat staring at him through the sliding glass door. Every once in a while it'd headbutt the glass. Now this was a very docile animal. He'd have never hurt a fly, but he was out for that boy's blood. It turns out that the kid had been torturing the goat. He had him pinned up against the wall of the pen, throwing rocks and sticks at its testicles to see if he could hit them. The goat came after him, scaled the fence, and chased him across 3 acres of land and into the house. The kid waited for 2 hours for the goat to go away, but it never did. Any time he opened a door to try to sneak away, the goat was right there trying to attack him. Eventually the goat disappeared and the kid tried to sneak out a window feet first, and once again started screaming, because the goat was right there headbutting his backside as he climbed out. It was absolutely liberating. There are 3 things all wise men fear: the sea and the storm, a night with no moon, and the wrath of a big goat after you chucked sticks at its testicles. Seriously. Why would you even do that? I hope you gave that goat some treats. Bully the kid. He drank an entire bottle of vodka at lunch and was kicked out of school. An entire bottle? He didn't die first? A girl once punched herself in the gut at her little bro's b-day party and threw up just so people would notice her. That's commitment. I knew this girl in high school who was the queen of obnoxious and attention-seeking behavior. She was constantly trying to get people's attention, from screaming loudly in the hall to crying hard over sad memes at lunch. She was so annoying, but unfortunately, many people bought and fed into her histrionics. Let's call her Cryface. I never really liked Cryface, she came off as fake and kind of rude. I tried to ignore her for the most part, but the absolute turning point for me was her over-the-top behavior at a choir concert junior year. It was 20 minutes before the concert was set to begin, and all the kids were practicing getting on the risers, about 100 people. Suddenly, Cryface's mom entered the auditorium, briskly walked to the director, and whispered something in his ear. The director nodded, and called Cryface off the riser. When Cryface got down, the mom whispered something to her. All of a sudden, Cryface let out a blood-curdling scream and ran for the auditorium exit. She got halfway before collapsing to the ground wailing. She kept yelling, oh my God," over and over again. The mom came up behind her, pulled her up by the elbow, and rushed out. Naturally, everyone in the choir thought something horrible had happened. Some friends had texted her, but Cryface would only respond with cryptic messages like "nothing will ever be the same" and "why couldn't it have been me?" Rumor spread that her father and little sister had burned to death in a car wreck. With a reaction like that, what else could it be? People were talking about organizing a carpool to attend the funeral and taking friendship shifts so someone would always be available to comfort her. I even agreed to a couple shifts. Hell, the entire choir said a group prayer for her before the concert, and this was at a public school. We were also worried. Now, these thoughts would have been incredibly kind, if that was what happened. But nope. Turns out Cryface's little sister was diagnosed with diabetes. The sister didn't go to the hospital. She didn't get sick and need medical attention. The family had only received the call that the scheduled medical tests came back positive for diabetes. The mom came to tell Cryface because the family had decided to skip the choir concert so they could meet with the doctor and talk about the medical diagnosis. TLDR, girl finds out her little sister has diabetes and might get more attention than her. So girl makes high school choir think her family died in a car wreck. Goddamn. Wow, that next level for that age. I understand compulsive lying because that used to be me, but that's too ridiculous. She was constantly trying to get people's attention, from screaming loudly in the hall. Just gonna latch onto this one. I used to work at a call center and there was a really annoying and attention-starved girl. Now this was a massive call center with like 15 floors, all different departments taking calls and making cold calls. She worked on a different floor but she was notorious. Well, one time I'm on the elevator and she's there. Some dude gets on and he smells like cigarettes. She says to no one, if one more person gets on the elevator and smells like smoke, I'm gonna scream. Me and the other dude just totally ignored her because we know engaging her in any way would only escalate the situation. Sure enough, another fella gets on the elevator and he smells like smoke. She took in a powerful sniffff and then screamed at the top of her lungs before the doors even closed. The elevator had very reflective acoustics, fancy glassed surfaces, and it felt like someone stabbed me in the ear. Anyway, the people on that last floor filed a complaint because that scream scared customers that they were trying to sell. A few people said they lost sales because of it. She got fired. Finally. Little brother is a few years younger than me. He used to come into my room to harass me all the time and my parents never allowed me to have a lock. He was around 10 when I started propping a piano stand under my doorknob to keep people out. I'm so sick of people saying it was a fire hazard. You'd use whatever you could too if your parents never knocked, and your brother used to shoot you with airsoft guns. Little brother pushed the door and the piano stand was at the knob. I ignored it before all I heard was the loudest bang followed by a thud. I opened the door to see him laying on the floor, holding his face, and crying. Apparently, he decided that he could break down my door like in the movies by throwing himself against it after running from down the hall. But this dumbass didn't just throw his shoulder or kick it. He threw his entire body against it like a squirrel going for a tree. Arms and legs out, face fucking first. I got blamed for it, but it was worth it. Only time I ever laughed that hard at his expense again was when he tried to fart into my room and shat himself about 2 years later. That last part is the very definition of a critical failure. He was a massive jerk. One day we had a supply in science and he got up on the desk, whipped his dick out and yelled, "I'm Gandhi," then ran out of the classroom. He went to a special needs school 2 months later. That motherfucker started angrily pumping weights when we were chilling at someone's house, threatened to shave his head and then tore his shirt off of his body. Did he drink a Monster? And was his name Kyle? Threatened to shave his head? What kind of threat is that? I was at my friend's house. I was bored and started playing Portal 2 on his Xbox. After a while my other friend's sister, who mind you treated attention like a drug, burst into the room and starts screaming at me like we were dating and in a fight. My friend was there too and just watched. Every time I would tell her to leave she would get louder. She has a crush on you and wants your attention. Started yelling and screaming purely in an annoying and antagonistic way during a school shooting drill. We had no idea it was a drill and the kid is just banging on walls and yelling, "Hey, we're in here," as other students are in the corner and girls are crying because they truly believe this kid is going to get them killed. The teacher and student aides were trying to restrain him and a friend of mine, again, still under the impression this was real, literally stood up to go punch his lights out to shut him up just as the drill ended and was revealed to be just a drill. Had the announcement come a few seconds later that kid would have gotten knocked the hell out. Wait. Are you saying that schools in the US have shooter drills that are not announced as drills until they are over? So a couple of times a year there is an announcement that there is a shooter on the property and everyone goes into hiding thinking it is real? That is honestly terrifying. When I was in middle school, our friend group had an attention-seeking girl. She was generally alright for a middle schooler, hormonal teenage bitchiness aside, but we could all tell she was a bit troubled. She would lie about everything. She made up family members that didn't exist, tried to claim that every dark-haired, thin, female extra in a music video that only appeared for a split second was her, and all sorts of other things. For example, once, she dug a huge bloody hole in her lip and claimed that her brother punched her. Except, she didn't have a brother. One day, she started texting us about how she's drunk, cut her arms up, and is trying to put things like Sharpie ink into the cuts so that it would poison her and kill her. Naturally, we all panicked. One of the girls in our group decided to call the police, and she ended up being put in some sort of a mental hospital for a while. When she came back, she was super pissed at us and refused to speak to any of us. I guess she didn't get the reaction she wanted? She showed no physical signs of the kind of self-harm she claimed to have done to herself, either. Yeah, mine too. She alluded to hanging herself in the Japanese suicide forest and faked amnesia. Middle school was whack lol. No, that's what you do with those people. React to their dramatic threats with all seriousness and watch them squirm. Snuck vodka into state-mandated testing in a water bottle. She was sent home drunk off her ass and my entire class was banned from having water bottles in class for the rest of the year. Into state testing? How stupid can some people be? A teacher friend of mine told me once about a student she had who cut a hole in the pocket of his jeans so he could stick his dick through it, and when the teacher wasn't looking he'd poke it out through the pocket and thrust it towards the girls in class. Finally one day she caught him in the act and he got either suspended or kicked out. IDR. Why? Bitch put powdered laxatives in his friend's drinks. This was in 6th grade. There was this girl for a while that had this huge crush on me, and she didn't seem to realize that she had been a total jerk to me for most of my life and that I really disliked her. Finally she decided to get my attention by stealing my $300 leather jacket and saying that she wouldn't give it back unless I went out with her. So I contacted her mom and told her that if she didn't intervene, then my parents were going to press charges. The day after she gave my jacket back, she sent me this long-ass text talking about how I hurt her so badly, and it would take a long time to earn back her trust. I replied by saying, I don't want you to trust me, I want you to leave me alone. And we haven't spoken since. Pro gamer move. He T-posed whilst standing on a table in the cafeteria and got suspended. I can sense his power through this comment. Couldn't handle the big dick energy. Some Wolverine wannabe stabbed me with 6 damn pencils. Why is that funny? Some kid shat on the fucking toilet seat. A week later he shat in the sink. I don't get why people liked him. As someone that worked as a bathroom janitor, I fucking hate people that do that type of shit. No one that does that cares or thinks about the cleanup. Faked her own kidnapping as a senior prank. Even got the attention of Amber Alert. Edit, my bad, didn't give the whole story. I was being a lazy shit when I posted this, but here is my recollection of events. Well, this is from my freshman year of HS, was told by a relative who was a senior at the time, and that was a while ago, so some parts may be fuzzy. Here we go. So that year many of the senior pranks were the usual generic things, toilet paper, the works. So this girl had this great idea for a prank and to be a standout, faking her own kidnapping. Shortly after school one day in late May she called, texted her parents, and friends that were OOTL, hysterically telling them that a stranger shoved her in a truck and drove off. She said she was scared, and please help her. The parents and friends wasted no time and immediately notified police. Eventually the Amber Alert was issued. She was later tracked down and found that evening. Turns out she was at the next city over hanging out at her BF's house. She confessed and was promptly arrested. The following day it was discussed primarily by the upperclassmen and didn't make it to the freshman class until 6th period 2 days later. Isn't that a crime? Teacher assigned us a confessional speech and he admitted he had the hots for his sister, then got defensive when we recoiled with EWWWWS and no awe. He claimed we were all on the wrong side of history and that consensual incest was going to be the next big thing. How did that turn out? My ex-roommate did a whole lot of stupid shit for attention. She constantly posted things on social media like, the world would be better off without me, nobody wants me alive, etc. But she always refused to get actual help. When her boyfriend broke up with her, she went around telling everyone that she broke up with him after he raped her. She always bragged to people she had just met about how many guys she had been with, how much she loved weed and alcohol, etc. She got engaged to her Tinder fuckbuddy she had only known for a few months. And she made me homeless because her engagement was supposed to be a secret from her parents. They found out and she blamed me. So she made a whole bunch of shit up about me emotionally abusing her, even though that's what she was doing to me the entire time I lived with her. That way her parents would kick me out. They owned the loft we were staying in. I haven't spoken to her since I was kicked out, but from what I hear from other people, the psycho bitch is going nowhere in life. She got kicked out of her first choice university, dropped out of community college after failing all of her classes her first semester, and has been stuck as a cashier at a shitty grocery store for the past 2 years. Oh, and her Tinder fuckbuddy broke the engagement with her right after I was made homeless. Guess he finally got a brain and realized she's insane. Almost every school shooting. He was this annoying popular kid who loved getting attention, and in 6th grade he set a bathroom trash can on fire so the entire school had to stand out in the snow for like 10 minutes and then we sat in the gym for another 15. SMH, what a dumbass. Edit, didn't expect to get this many upvotes because this is my first comment. My old friend online, he used to say he was depressed and suicidal. And did self-harm. Everhone thought they were real, at first I did too, until I was looking up fake cuts on YouTube for Halloween, and saw a cut that looked like his, went back on Discord to look at the picture of the cut, and there I saw the pen ink, and confronted him, but apparently he was rushed to an emergency room from that same cut, and was put on suicide watch for 24 hours but had his phone the entire time, and couldn't take pictures of proof. In the end, a few weeks later we were in a Discord server, and I joined the public call there and there he was. Yeah, a few weeks ago I lied to my old friend saying I got some cut and was in the emergency room. We talked daily still like real friends and not old friends. Then I said, oh really? Well then we're not talking anymore then, and he tried apologizing and saying he lied to then, but I was done with his bullshit. I blocked him and never talked to him again. This was December 2018. Edit, a few peoples keep asking for his name. All information I will put out about him is, I'm 75% sure his name was Angel, it could have been something else, my mind is coming up with Henry. He lives in PA, USA, he should be 15 years old. Fucked a horse and took a video of it. Bragged to a couple other weirdos about the horse fucking, they sent themselves the video off his phone and it went around the whole school. Enlisted right after graduation probably to escape horse fucker reputation. There used to be a guy in my class that would do anything for attention. The other guys in class liked to make him do dumb stuff and he always thought he somehow proved himself. He did things like cutting of his hair during lessons, touch girls where he shouldn't and start fire alarms just for fun. One day he got caught masturbating in the cafeteria. Twice. Twerked in front the classroom. Happened to me too, 7th grade, a girl named Narnia. A girl in 6th grade started yelling at me and my friend that we were racist just because we both happened to be white. When we ignored her she went to the teacher and told her that we called her fat and were bullying her. She's also super skinny and in shape Sue. I'm entirely Hispanic but appear white and some girl tried that on me in elementary school. When I told her I wasn't white then she ironically started making racist comments about the Mexicans. Such a hypocrite LMAO. Had a kid in elementary school named Ricky. He was the typical jackass kid that just was in trouble constantly. He was funny in some cases but in general it was like please be quiet whenever he spoke up. One afternoon pretty much everyone was ignoring Ricky and he got upset and excused himself to use the bathroom. About 20 minutes passed and the teacher asked if another student would go check. Then that student was gone a handful of time. So everything stopped and they called the office. Turns out Ricky was in the bathroom lobbing dirty cups of water and whatever else you can imagine at people, then holding the door shut and had like 4 to 5 other children in there just covered in disgusting water. Hated this kid. Had this girl in middle school who would purposely make up crazy lies, e.g. said she was related to Nicki Minaj for the sake of impressing her classmates. The thing is, after a while, we all figured it was a load of crap, but silently agreed to just nod our heads whenever she came to share another jaw-dropping story. Well, turns out our tolerance created this illusion that her plan was working, and she must have felt as if she was getting the attention she craved, which worsened the situation. We were in 7th grade at the time, she was crushing real bad on a dude that was a year older. Instead of walking up to him and trying to befriend the kid, she makes a whole fake Instagram account which she used to DM him. Set up a different name and surname, found a hot model with a relatively small following, and used her to catfish the guy. She'd post these photos on her feed, not necessarily send it to him directly going, hey, this is me. They began texting, like everyday type of thing. He'd send her good morning and good night selfies, and she took ages to reply because she was constantly searching for a fitting picture. This fake girl was, supposedly, from a whole other state. They kept texting for several months, nobody knew except for me and a few other people from our class, but we weren't spreading the story. To be honest, I wasn't very interested anyway. Well, turned out the guy had booked plane tickets to go visit the non-existent hot chick he's been talking to non-stop. He flew to a completely different state hoping to meet the love of his life in person, had relatives there I'm pretty sure, so he stayed with them. He shared all this with the fake girl after landing. Yeah. She had to confess and tell him about everything. The girl moved schools after that and her story spread like a wildfire, not sure what went on with the guy. Note, they did call Skype, he heard her real voice, but since they never shared a word in person he didn't recognize her from anywhere. Never video chatted though. To be honest with you, I have no clue how she managed to keep up with her own lies for several months before being forced to end it. Thinking back on this is more bizarre than I originally remember it being. Had an online friend claim while we were making an MC server that he was super rich and had a mansion, and like 5 Bugattis and Ferraris and what the fuck ever. Showed us inspect element versions of his PayPal, posted his Google image ass cars all over the Discord, had a mightier than thou tone, abused his admin on the server a lot. He never once showed us his actual face or spoke on VC. Once he got busted, he DM'd me pretending to be his brother, saying that he had died. Then a couple days later his brother DM'd me and said, the doc's fucked up and he's actually been in a coma for like 2 days but told me to tell you, he feels betrayed that you never believed him. I blocked the fuck out of him when he DM'd me a few months later saying, sup bro, been a long time since I saw you. Anyone wants proof of this, I got you. P.S. Fuck off Salvatore you snot rocket in a shit-covered tree. He lowered the US flag on the school's flagpole and hoisted up his Jolly Roger less than pirate greater than flag in its place. That's funny though. In high school. Claimed she was pregnant with triplets and then a few weeks later claimed she had cancer now so she lost them. This stupid ass kid did a ton of acid shortly before a pep rally in high school and freaked out during it. First the school called the police, but apparently he was freaking out too much so they had to call an ambulance to hold him down and carry him out via stretcher. Pretty sure he got expelled because I never saw him in one of the classes we were both in ever again. In elementary school some kid unzipped his pants in front of a bunch of people and was showing people his underwear. Everyone was old enough to recognize that it was not funny. I knew a pathological liar in high school. She would tell you one thing one day and something the complete opposite the next. For example, one day she tells me about a threesome she had. The very next day she tells me she's a virgin. Which one is it, lady?